Would you welcome, please, Mr. Brendan Grace? Here he is. Brendan Grace. Tell him, leave you to it. Leave you to it.
This is a song which is a true account of my first date.
I stared at your great big boob and the beautiful big blue eyes. I wondered if you flirted with all the guys.
And when you smiled, the nearly
Shot out through the door.
'cause I never seen such pretty little teeth, I said.
I have never seen Brendan do a bad show. Every single show he did, he just blew them away. Mind you, he had them from the minute he said, "How are you?"
Now we're going to Wicklow, and I'm really looking forward to it because Wicklow, in actual fact, is where my dad is from. This is my first show of the summer. I only got back from the United States, where I live, and this is the first of a few shows. We don't do a lot of shows in the summer. I just like to keep my hand in because Eileen would probably look for a divorce if I didn't get out of the house and do shows.
Getting rid of the grey hairs?
Oh, yeah, this grand.
And come here, I went to a school, it was a gambling school. It was a gamble whether you'd come home alive or not.
I mean, yeah, he's rammed into a kid's uniform. Imagine that going now. How are you? Oh, the BBC are on the line. Oh, hiya. Listen, I just want to dress up as a kid and call myself Butler. Is that all right? Oh, I love it, yeah.
I'd like to thank everybody today who bought a gift. Everybody except for two. Who didn't bother their bother.
There's a lot of comics out there. I don't have time for many of them, but Brendan is one of those guys I could listen to forever.
And dear Margaret remembers that for me.
In my mind, he's a lovely, lovely, gorgeous human being. Great to look at, delightful person. I may be really disappointed.
Because our mothers would always ask us to do things that couldn't possibly be done. Always contradiction. Come over here and don't move. Shut your mouth and eat your dinner.
I think Brendan was born to perform. And I think until he's in the brown box with the brass handles, I think he'll still be making us laugh. I hope he will. He's a funny man.
I was born and bred in a darling spot, well famed in history. In the oldest part of Dublin, and it's called the Liberty.
I'm a funny man who plays the guitar, sings the nice songs sometimes, the nice romantic songs as well, on stage. But off stage, I think I'm very serious.
And here I am 42 years later, sitting, by the way, in this beautiful chair that my darling wife, Eileen, bought me this chair for my first Christmas, our first Christmas together. And I'm sitting in this very chair then.
I couldn't attribute my success, for instance, to having a hard neck and going out and saying, I'm going to make it, regardless of what anybody says. I think in one word, I owe it to the University of Adversity. That's the best way I can put it.
You can do your own math here. Brendan was born on the 1st of April, 1951, so we're the same age. How did he manage to be born on the 1st of April? Seriously, great funny clown born on April Fool's Day. Perfect.
We lived on the Coombe for 9 years. It was a tenement, and during that time, my first sister was born. And Lord rest her, she died at about 6 weeks. Her name was Breed. And my second sister, Marie, came along then at the end of that period before we moved up beside Guinness's. And my mother always felt that Marie was a return of Breed. She said that she had a mole in the same place and she cried the same way. My mother actually believes that Breed came back. And I have no idea how she was conceived because we all slept in the same bed.
Now me ma and I got an awful fright. I used to love this place. The crazy, ridiculous things we used to do. Eccles Street buildings. This is the landing where I used to play with the toys and the corgis. And the rows we used to have over who owned it what, the whole lot.
We had really come up in the world by the time I was born because we moved to, a minuscule 2-bedroom flat in Eklund Street, but up 4 flights of stairs. And my mom used to carry the groceries and the coal even up those stairs. No bathroom in the house, no car, no phone, no fridge.
I was never a stout schoolboy or big boned. I used to hate those descriptions. Oh, he's a fine lad and he's big boned. And I was fat. That's the word, fat. I've been there, I've done that, and I've ate the T-shirt. I didn't wear it, I ate it. My mum was a very gentle woman, and she was a lovely singer too. When she would be at a party, she never drank. She was taller than my dad by a long shot, and our local pub, Fallon's on the Coombe, whenever she'd come down after hours to get my father to come home, John would come in and say, the long one is at the window.
Thank you. You can clap out loud if you wish. Don't leave my mother on her own. Okay, all together, clap now. Thank you. Sorry, Mum. Show us your teeth, Mum. Put them back. Good girl. Nice.
My dad was a small man with great gusto.
He was very intelligent, very intellectual, but left the farm early on and came to Dublin and discovered alcohol. And, so that was the path that his life took. But what he was capable of was, anything. He could have done anything.
I remember joking with him one time and I said, I think you're an alcoholic, Dad. And he said, no, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm a drunk. And I said, what's the difference? He says, a drunk doesn't have to go to the meetings. My dad was a drinking man. And there was a knock on the door and my mother came in crying. I said, what's wrong, Mum? She says, the rent man is at the door and I've no money. And I went out to him. I said, excuse me, I'll send me father out. And I just went into my father, and I always remember, I said, Dad, I said, there's a man at the front door and he's looking for this week's rent. He said, all right. He said, tell him to come in and we'll all look for it together. I started singing. I wasn't telling jokes at all. Until people started laughing at my singing. I was a lovely singer. And people used to laugh at me singing, including this beautiful lady here. Isn't that right, Kathleen? Or Eileen? When I was with the Ginger Man, we were we were a fabulous harmony group. And we were very popular because of our close harmony.
The man with the foolish grin is keeping perfectly still.
I was learning the guitar, and a cousin of mine, Brendan Cahill, came up to visit me in the house, saw me playing the guitar, and he said, there's 2 friends of mine are starting a band group. Would you be interested?
And I still remember this vividly, it was upstairs. Brendan was sitting on a stool with his leg in plaster. He'd fallen off his motorbike, broken his leg. And he had a guitar and he was singing. And I remember walking past the stage, and before we sat down at the end, I said to Brendan Cahill, yeah, that's exactly what I want.
The stories of the streets are mine.
We only did one pub in England, which was the Arsenal Tavern. The rest were all Irish clubs, which were great because they were all sit and listen. But the Arsenal Tavern was dog rough. And this guy came up and he said, sing Neil Diamond. And we said, well, we don't do that, And he said, there's been more people killed off that stage than off Wells Fargo. So we went, where'd it be gone?
A newsflash. I remember it, in fact. A County Kilkenny farmer, Mr. Tom Reardon of Leestown, was struck yesterday by a vehicle while cycling near his home. Mr. Reardon had a Gato Swiss roll with him at the time, and the Gato Swiss roll was totally demolished. Unfortunately, it was in Tom's mouth at the time.
Because, I mean, the only reason I told jokes in the Ginger Men is the guys used to break strings, playing the guitar. They'd break a string, and I'd be pushed forward to keep it going while they were breaking strings.
And as he's stringing the guitar, he started telling a story. The first story he told was a kid making his Holy Communion, out in his blazer and his cap and his rosette, and his mum takes him out to Hout for his lunch. And they're standing on the harbour in Hout, and the kid's running up and down, the mother's sitting having a cigarette, and the kid falls in. And she's going, oh my God, my son, my son, my son. And this business guy's coming along, briefcase and all that. She said, my son's in the water. He said, oh my God. Drops the briefcase, dives in, gets the kid out, rescues the kid, pumps his lungs, gives him the mouth to mouth, and the kid coughs up, and he's well. And the crowd are all like this. So the mother comes over and says, excuse me, are you the man that saved my son? And he said, I am, yes. Where's his cap? And the audience fell around the place, and he realised, oh, I like that.
But I had no idea that it was going to work out, you know, to be my entire career.
If you were a talent scout even then, in all fairness, and you looked at the Ginger Men, as good as they were, and they were terrific, if you were asked who's the one out of them that will make it in the long term, and this is before he even did comedy, you'd say Brendan Grace.
Cushy Butterfield, which is Brendan's first hit, Shay Healy gave that song to us as the Ginger Men to record. And I listened to it and I said, no, that'll never be a hit. Nobody'd be interested in that. That's terrible. And how wrong can you be, you know? Brendan recorded it, went straight to #1.
I'm a broken-hearted cold man, beguiled from the start. Be a young lass from Leixlip, and she stole me heart. Her name's Cushy Butterfield, she sells fish on the
The time was right for a song like that. So he fitted right in. He was doing well as a singer, but comedy took over. And consequently, I stopped sending him nice songs and sent him the rougher ones.
Hello, Mother. Now, she said the man that marries her must work every day. And each Friday night, he must hand up his pay. And she'll feed him
Up until Brendan Grace came along, comedians were just fillers. They did the warm-up for the big stars. They did, you know, they were the novelty act. Brendan came along, and Brendan, he was the star of the show. He was the warm-up of the show. He was everything. And a comedian's set at that stage was about 20, 25 minutes, like it is in comedy clubs today. Brendan was doing 2 hours.
My mummy didn't want me. My mummy kept saying, that's not my child. She said, put that child back, she said. And give me 2 smaller ones.
Well, the start of Brendan O'Carroll with me was on our wedding day. We had a small wedding, and the head waiter was a man called Peter Malone, and his commie waiter, among the other waiters, was this little funny guy called Brendan O'Carroll.
He arrived with Eileen just after the wedding, in a helicopter, of course. That's Brendan. There was a great shindig, a lot of celebrities there. And one of the waiters said, do you want to hear our Brendan? So they got me up to tell a few stories. And I did a few gags, got a few laughs. And then afterwards went down to the restaurant. I was having a coffee there, nearly in the dark, and Brendan came in. He said, do you write comedy? I said, I don't write, but I make shit up as I go along. And he said, it's really good.
And I offered him a job on the road with me as to help the roadie that I had. And we had a lot of fun on the road.
All the bands and Brendan, they're either travelling to a gig, doing a gig, or travelling back from a gig. A lot. Their time is so compact that when they get time for recreation, it's all packed into that 1 hour or 2 hours. And they went nuts. They just went nuts. They were doing shit that I was going, what the fuck, what? So I found it a bit overwhelming, because believe it or not, at 17, I was a very innocent little boy. I was living with my mum, and so I found it a bit overwhelming. But I got into the swing pretty quick.
Yeah, so I started working in the Brain Rooms. So it was, I think I was about 14 when I went down to collect glasses. So Brendan was on this night. Now, before that, I'd been a fan of his. Do you know what I mean? But I was only a kid, so I couldn't go and see him. And out comes Brendan, right? And he's talking away and he's telling jokes and he's doing his stuff, and it's brilliant, right? Then he'd go out and have a break. Then he came on as Bottler, and he would do Bottler. Then he'd go off, and then he'd come back on. Then he'd come on with a guitar around him. And then he'd start singing funny songs. Then he'd come on and dress as a priest. Then he was doing Father of the Bride.
Well, I would like to say that the couple are a lovely couple who got married for the sake of peace, like, you know.
I think Brendan must have been on that stage for 3 hours, 3.5 hours, and he's held that audience on his own, but not just doing stand-up, he's doing characters, he's singing songs, and it's no bother to him. No bother to him at all, and I'd be like crying laughing.
They loved him. They actually loved him. There was a case in point where they were looking for a new Brendan Grace. There was 4 fellas on stage, and who was the best Brendan Grace? And Brendan said to me, he says, "I'll go up there myself, so you'll have a bit of laugh." So he got up and he entered for the competition, who was the best Brendan Grace, and he got 5th.
Is there anybody here who didn't get in yet, no?
Now,
We came off the stage, and they put us into an annex room off the gig. So we were across the car park to get to where the changing room was. And I really worried about him going from hot to cold. He'd be pumped and sweating. And we go out into the cold night, and I think, if he got a cold, we're all out of work. Got him out of the gig, put a towel over his head. It was like a boxer coming out. We're coming across, you could actually see the steam coming off him. And we came across the car park, and we got to the door. Somebody locked it. And at the time I was doing taekwondo. So I went, "Stand back." I put my fist through the door, and put my hand in the hole, and opened the door. He stood at the door and went, "If you ask me for a raise, remind me to say yes."
I go along to this auction and I'm bidding for this South American parakeeta. That's the parrot with, with the boot boy hairstyle, you see. And I'm bidding for this parrot for 45 minutes at an auction. I eventually paid £750 for a parrot. Now, I really felt, you know the way you feel after that. I went up to the auctioneer and I says, "I hope to God this parrot can talk." He says, "Who do you think has been bidding against you for the past hour?"
I'm hoping my wife will never see me hugging this woman I love.
Stop.
How many years you've married?
Too long.
Don't remind us.
45 in January.
45 this January.
Is that hard to
It's a halo she needs.
Couple of medals.
Putting up with me for 45 years.
And we have the waterbed, and my wife is, she is very romantic, and she calls my side of the waterbed the Dead Sea.
What's her side?
Her side is the Arctic. But anyway, that's...
My very best friend is Eileen. And I get emotional when I think about it. Eileen, there's nothing I wouldn't do for Eileen. And there's nothing she wouldn't do for me. And that's how it's been for 45 years, doing nothing for each other.
And she stood in the kitchen at 6 o'clock in the morning. She said, "Make love to me. Make mad, passionate love to me." I said, "Why pick on me?" I said, "Why on earth do you want me to make love to you at 6 o'clock in the morning in the kitchen?" She says, "I want to time an egg." And of course...
His comedy revolved around family, his life revolved around family. He's from a really, really close family. I think the family man that was in him also went through to the audience,
William, you get that. This is the man from the revenue.
Hello. I admired his ambition for it. He wasn't afraid of it. He wanted it. He knocked on every door, no matter what it took. He lived out in RTE, never took no for an answer. So he had that drive in him from very, very early. And I admired that in him. He had no fear. And that brought me on because I was kind of very shy as a kid growing up. And I thought to myself, this guy can move mountains. I'm going there. I'm going to take a chance on it.
When I was away, we never stayed over. Like, no matter where the gig was, anywhere in Ireland, we would drive home. But sometimes I would be coming in, but the kids would be going to school. And I'd probably be going to the next gig when the kids would be coming home from school. Eileen held it together as a mother and a father.
Father and son relationship, instead of being out and about during the daytime, in the park, we're sitting in the kitchen having chips at 3 a.m, which is great. Perfect.
We just tried to normalise it as much as possible. It was him that made it awkward for us more so than the other way around. We would just act like everything was normal. And then before you know it, he'd come and pick you up from school on a Honda 50 dressed as Bottler. So that kind of put it out there that we weren't exactly a normal family.
I had the kind of dad who, when I'd come home from work, I would be greeted by him standing in the driveway in his knickers, filing his paperwork in the back of the car and drinking tea out of an empty can of peas. It just doesn't occur to him that that is odd. Like, to him, that is the most efficient way of doing things.
When you're poor and you live in small spaces, you have to improvise. You have to make things do double duty. That's probably where all this comes from. The supplies that might come in handy if you needed them in some kind of emergency, even though it's unlikely that that emergency will come up.
I've been dying to know for 30 years. We woke up one morning, we ran down to the Christmas tree, and there was nothing there. Maybe you want to let us know what might have happened on Christmas Eve to result in,
Dying to hear this.
in a barren Christmas tree the next morning.
How old are you now? You're old enough to know. Well, I was actually giving your mammy her Christmas present.
We asked. You asked.
Wrong answer.
No, I'm telling you, I was.
Image.
I had bought her a lovely Christmas gift.
Yeah.
And I gave her the Christmas gift, and she thanked me for it, and I thanked her back again. And
all right.
Then she gave me my Christmas gift.
Good.
Yeah. Are you sorry you asked?
He asked. I did not ask.
Okay, so my dad has an obsession with plastic bags, and he also has an obsession with giving you plastic bags with odd things in them. So I might be leaving their house after a visit someday, and my dad will give me one of his upcycled plastic bags, and he'd just say, there's a few bits for you just in case you run out. And in the plastic bag will be a light bulb, a treat for the dog, a roll of toilet paper, and a sellotape dispenser in the shape of a shoe.
A double-decker bus in the garden? Hello? I can't have friends over. What's wrong with you? He's very eccentric. So this has basically put an end to me ever having friends over. Like, imagine going, like, your friend say, come on over to my house. We have swings out the back. Come on over to my house and I'll show you the 49A.
What are you doing there? What are you doing with your hands full of that silver? You're robbery. No, I'm not robbing hands. I wasn't feeling well. I just thought the change would do me good.
Brendan is one of these guys that I just fell in love with. I mean, from the moment we first met, wherever it was, the one thing I loved about him back then was Bottler. It was delicious, delightful, Bottler. And I thought it was a good start for a guy like him. I thought I approved of it, and I loved it, and I laughed a lot.
And my old fella brought me up to the pub, and I was so small that he took me out and he put me up on the counter, and he says to the barman, put a head in that.
He was just a lovely man to be around, and so much so that when my son was born, I decided, I said, that's a good name. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use his name. Brendan, I call my son. So and every time I see Brendan, I say, you remember Brendan Grace, in your prayers, because he'll need them.
Me old fella, you had a great sense of humour. He used to always say, listen, stupid. He always called me listen.
And the minute he came out, I always remember the crowd laughing before he even said anything. I've only seen two people do that in my life, and that's Billy Connolly and Brendan Grace. I've never seen any other comic do that. Everybody else waits until they talk, but the minute Brendan came out, people knew.
His timing is impeccable. He makes you wait, and when he delivers the punchline, you're not ready for it.
I remember as a young comic looking to someone like Brendan, the genius of him and what he does, and how he had no problem exposing himself as a clown and to get a laugh. And it wasn't doing it to get a laugh, it was enhance the characters or whatever. And he just kept pushing those things out a little bit more. So you respected that, and it also gave us confidence to kind of say, oh, we're going to push things out a little bit as well. You know, it's inspiring.
Well, how was it going and how was the crack? I came through Dunlavin on the way back. And I knocked on a small little house's door. And I said to the woman, one of your hens has stopped laying. She says, how do you know? I says, I'm after driving over it with the car.
I was in Manhattan one time with my best mate, Dave, and we were at PJ Clark's and we bumped into Brendan. We were having a few jars, telling a few jokes, and my phone rang. And it was Prince Albert from Monaco saying, we're at the Plaza Athénée down the street, having a party, do you want to come by? I said, of course, yeah, well, great. And then I thought, this will be great, I'll bring Brendan up there, we won't tell him where we're going, and he'll be so shocked, it'll be such a great experience. And so Dave and I were having a giggle saying, wait till you see his face when he walks in and he sees it, Prince Albert. So we got to the place anyhow and knocked the door open, and Prince Albert came over to say hi to me, and they saw Brendan and said, Brendan, Brendan, and they gave the big hug and they kissed, the two of them. They knew each other for years, you know, but that's the man that Brendan is. I don't know anybody who doesn't love him. You know, Bill Clinton is a huge fan of his, and I believe Frank Sinatra was a huge fan of his, but who's not a fan?
Out of the tree of life, I just picked me a plum.
Anybody would have been loving to be asked to perform in front of Frank Sinatra. It changed his life. No other comedian was offered that. Because he was the best, and that's the reason why he was asked.
Oliver Barry, the great impresario, said to me, I want you to entertain Sinatra, Sammy Davis, Liza Minnelli, and their entourage. And I did this Drunken Father of the Bride. And Sammy Davis fell out on his knees against Sinatra to almost crying, laughing. They really enjoyed what I did.
And some smarter Alec, some comedian here bought them a pram and had it delivered to the church, marked urgent.
I got a build-up of confidence, and I looked at Sinatra and I leaned over and I said, You're not very como. I just said that for no reason, and that cracked him completely.
I met Sinatra, I met him at the airport, and I was the only person that Frank Sinatra touched and spoke to. And he walked straight over to me and he pushed me. He said, get out of the way.
Sammy Davis said to me, where have you been all our life? You've got to come to America. As a result of that, I worked in America with the Sinatra people. Premier artists were doing all of my management over there. And I got to work with a lot of people in a lot of places.
Well, the gigs were coming for Brendan fast and quicker, and you couldn't get the visas that easy. So that was the number one thing. So we said, okay, we get our visas, we'll go and live there for a while and we'll see how this works out.
When they came to us and said, listen, we have an opportunity, we're going to, go and try it out for a year. We're going to move over to Florida. Of course, the first reaction was like, what? America? I'm 16. The only thing I could think of was, does this mean I don't have to do my leaving cert?
And so it just kind of evolved on its own. We went for 2 years, literally, to say, that's what we'll do. But it took a life of its own.
And all these years later, we're still living there. And here in Ireland, we're back and forward, back and forward. Well, right now we're on our way to Shannon Airport because I'm heading off to Boston to see a lot of members of my family, my daughter, Melanie, my 2 grandsons, my son, Brendan, his son, Aidan. There's a lot of people in Boston that I know. It's great to be on a fine day with you in Boston.
Yeah.
I think it's time for a cup of tea, eh?
Oh, I'm having one.
Oh, I love that. But no cake. She may as well. But the reason I like Boston is because of its Irishness.
Good morning, Brendan. How are you?
Dermot, how the hell are you?
How's all down your side of the bog, huh?
I feel at home here. It's 2/3 of the way from Shannon to Florida, where we live. And Florida is a beautiful spot. God, look at all that. But Boston draws me close. And I meet so many Irish people here. They all know me because I've been there for 48 years. And they laugh when they see me. Now, I don't know whether they're laughing at me or with me. I'll see you, big fella. All the very best. My daughter Melanie, she could mouth anything I say. She knows all my script. She is running a drama school in Boston. Hiya, melodrama kids! This is me, I'm BG.
It was amazing that, you know, when you sat in the audience to watch our last show, that you didn't fall asleep.
Well, I saw the show 5 times
Yeah.
in a row, and I
And you only
really
slept
enjoyed.
twice?
I slept 3 times. It was brilliant. So what do you think of Boston?
I love it.
Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's really nice. The boat's over there.
Yeah.
We go out to Cape Cod.
Martha's Vineyard is over here, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Where's Martha? That's where the Boston Tea Party took place.
Yeah.
Hello, Tea Party people! Ahoy! We've just come from Ireland, and we'd love a nice cup of tea. Is it Barry's tea? Do I look like Shrek?
No.
Do I?
No.
You told me I looked like Shrek.
What?
Oh, farewell, my Boston beauty.
Don't let Brendan have any of this, because this is very fat one now. There's cream slices and eclairs, you know?
Yeah, guy.
Huh?
I don't think you should eat that.
You don't think I should eat
You
this?
should stick with the other ones. There's so much sugar in that. 'Cause you're diabetic.
I'm a diabetic. Oh, lads. I got diabetes. It was a bit of a blow to me. Eileen often said to me about the diabetes that she wished it was her who got it, because she would be better able to discipline herself into the right things to do. Whereas I'm inclined to throw caution to the wind.
I think he was in denial for a long, long time until probably about 12 years ago when it started to take its toll on him.
I lost 2 of my toes as a result of it. And I actually make virtue and make it funny, but it is a very serious thing.
When the toe thing started, that was the rude awakening. That was serious. And he had to start thinking about getting serious.
Once we get that energy flowing, okay? So 6 years ago, Brendan came to me with poor circulation, and obviously the whole thing was to help him to understand why this was happening, and that crucially for me, that with the energy work, that I was going to get the blood flowing better for him, then that would help to heal the foot, and then obviously having that being assisted with the medical treatment, that combination was going to help Brendan to get better.
I didn't know at that stage whether I was going to a faith healer or whether I was going to a type of doctor or surgeon. He was able to make me feel this energy moving through my body, and I couldn't fathom how it was happening, but it was magnetic field or whatever you call it, and it worked for me.
The energy itself can start to get the blood flowing, because the energy magnetically carries the blood throughout the body. And for anybody with diabetes, the key is circulation. In his lifestyle and with the circulation issue and all of that, I see a huge change and improvement in Brendan. But because he had no choice, he needed to make these changes. Otherwise, you know, it was going to be a shorter life than he would have hoped.
People say, if I'd known I was going to live this long, I would have took better care of myself from the beginning. But it's too late to be saying that when you realise I've got to be doing it now. And there's no better time to start than now.
The amount of men after the show that come to talk to him about their diabetes, and you want to hear him talking to them, telling them what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. I said, If he could only do that himself, what he's telling everybody else to do.
He's one of the great musicians and magicians of the world. An illusionist, table magic and the whole lot. We worked together for, what, 10 years on the show?
16.
16.
92.
And then one day he done the greatest trick of all time. He disappeared off the stage. And I'm only seeing him now.
Now, I met Brendan when he was that height. Remember, he was crawling out of a pub. That's right, friends. Brendan Grace.
So there is one thing that does annoy me when I'm at the shows. Brendan would pass by somebody and they might kind of look at him strange and say, is he a bit jarred? He's walking kind of funny. I've heard it a few times and I want to go and say, no, he's not jarred. He had a stroke, a mini stroke, and it did affect his balance somewhat. And so, you know, people should be more careful about what they say and how they approach a situation like that. But then he had a fall a year later, which made the balance even worse. You know, it deteriorated after that fall. It was incredible. So he's on a cane now. He never wanted to talk about having a stroke, which that's okay too. But I would like to talk about it to let people know that if you do see him, like, it's a health problem that he's got. He's not drunk.
Well, I remember Dr. Walsh telling me, he said, be thankful for one thing, he says, that you're in the 10% bracket. He said only 10% of people who've had a stroke or a mini stroke make a full recovery. And thank God I've made, you know, a full recovery.
Brendan Grace does not go on telly or stage ever with alcohol in him, ever. He's a disciplinarian. I've known him all my life. When he's doing that on stage, he was genuinely acting. Nowadays, he is genuinely the victim of medication for his illness. And that's it. And anybody who gives me the, well, I swear to God, I'll smack them on his behalf.
I'd just like to say that on behalf of you all, thank you for the gifts that you could have bought. 16 iron boards, 11 electric blankets, 3 with no plug, and an electric toaster that only works in America.
I've stopped playing the guitar because I had to use pressure on the fingers for the guitar, as you know. And I don't use the guitar on stage now.
Starry, starry night. Paint your palette blue and grey.
Brendan was is a very good singer. You know, it was something that Brendan, he should have kept on doing, you know, because he has a wonderful voice and he's got a great way of singing a song. And he's a good guitar player. You know, there are people out there earning money out of singing songs with guitars. And Brendan, you know, miles ahead of a lot of guys.
I'd love to see him do like an album with a band, you know, and play some songs, you know, I think it'd be great. I know there's some physical restrictions, you know, associated with the guitar, particularly after the stroke, but his version of the Dutchman's is the best in my opinion. It's certainly the most true to the words, and it's got lots of emotion to it.
Through unforgiving streets that trip him though she holds his arm. Sometimes he thinks that he's alone and he calls her name. Let us go sing where the banks of the ocean. Come on, everybody. Where the walls rise above the Zuyder Zee. Long ago, I used to be a young man, and dear Margaret remembers that for me.
Now this time get it right. We're in Baldoyle because this is where the Society of Dementia and Alzheimer's choir practice. They're called the Forget-Me-Nots. And I recorded a song 35 years ago that I got from David Soul of Hutch fame. It was called The Dutchman. You all remember Starsky and Hutch. Well, Hutch came to Ireland in 1982 to make a movie called The Manions of America. And while he was in Ireland, we just happened to meet and we became eternal friends.
I probably played it for him and taught him. I don't know what I did. I must have done something like that. That song is something that brings the two of us together in a very real way.
It's actually a song which is about people with Alzheimer's. And if you listen to the words of the song, every single line on it is moving. And I rang Nora Owen one day, the former minister, because she's connected with this great society, and I gave her my idea. So I decided that I would re-record it for the Alzheimer's Society.
The Dutchman is such a deliciously warm and strong song. It really moves me. It moves me, and I'm sure one of the things that connects me with Brendan is that it moves him too, very much so.
So I got Donald Lunny. I have great respect for. He's such a wonderful musician, arranger, producer, and we put it together that we come here with no wires or nets. We just came out raw to record The Dutchman. Fantastic. I'm sorry to see the cake being cut up because I'm a diabetic, but that's not going to stop me.
Long ago, I used to be a young man, and dear Margaret remembers that for me.
My dad's hobby is to sit down and write letters and write cards. You'd open it up and there's liable to be a Kit Kat in it.
This package arrives from Florida, and in a big padded envelope, there's a sheet of cardboard, and inside the envelope I can feel these lumps and bumps. I thought, what's that cleft of centre lunatic sending me now? Now, there's only a bit left, but the whole card, he had just sellotaped a whole load of sweetie bars together.
I think that he buys them for himself and very quickly packages them and ships them off so that he doesn't eat them.
He sends me cards, he sends my dog cards, he sends the cat cards, and he sends the dog a $5 to tell me to buy him a treat.
I've been with him so often when somebody has stopped him and said, "Oh, Brendan, my dad loves you. He's in a home in such and such a place." And my dad will always have the notepad and pen. What's your dad's name? What's his address? And you can be sure that that person will receive a message of some sort. And, you know, I don't know many people who can say, you know, that their dad can move people in the way that I feel that my dad has the ability to do.
And again, that's a lovely part of his character. You know, I'm an ex-footballer, but I'm also a black man. So I'm thinking, when I meet Brendan, what, you know, and do I get a hug or do I get a? Because seriously, some people still, believe it or not, might not appreciate that. Brendan Grace he nearly ran up to me and he gives me this big bear hug because that's the sort of person he is. It means a lot more, I think, to me because of the unacceptance that I've got from a lot of people growing up and in my life and stuff like that. He just makes me feel just so welcome in his circle.
Brendan came to my mother's funeral, God rest her, just a couple of years back. And he's such a warm, kind, generous, decent man. Is he the same person that he is on stage? I suppose that's certainly part of his makeup. But there's much more to Brendan. He's a highly intelligent man. He's a very caring man.
It was my 18th birthday. We were on a break of a few days, and he called me and said to me, "I need you to come over here." And I said, "What's up?" "I need to talk." I was a bit pissed off. And arrived at the house, came in. "So what's up?" Well, he said, "Eileen's away, and I just want to go for a bit of lunch, but I don't have lunch of my own." I said, "You're kidding me. You brought me over here to have lunch. Are you serious?" So we walk out to the front door, and I think at the time he had the Jag, he had 2 motorbikes, he had another car, there was the van. And now, which one will I take? Will I take that? Will I take that? Will I take that? I was going, "For God's sake, come on, will you?" And he points past this guy and says, "I'll take that one." It was a Fiat 127. I said, "You don't own that one." And he said, "I know I don't. You do. Happy birthday." I pulled up outside my house. My brother went, "Where did you steal that?" I said, no, it's not like the other ones. Just I own this one.
I see Brendan as a theatrical, or a theatre comic, He's more of a, theatre actor, if you like, And he would have made a very fine actor if he'd have taken it up.
What are we watching?
We're looking at the sports day.
Lots of young fellas running around in shorts. That's the kind of thing you like looking at. And I bet you like that too. But you're probably imagining what they'd look like without shorts. You're sitting there imagining that with a big smile on your face. You dirty fecker.
Yeah, when he played Father Fintan Stack, that was just brilliant.
We just thought, let's write someone who's just awful. He's just dreadful and annoying and kind of evil as well.
Well, I have to say, I think that you're a very rude man.
If you ever say that to me again, I'll put your head through the wall.
So we auditioned people and Brendan turned up and I thought, oh, Brendan Grace, that'd be interesting. So he turned up and he read the part in a different way than what we'd probably written it as. And that was more kind of subtle and passive-aggressive maybe, and not really as we'd imagined it. But we thought, well, that's a really interesting way to do the character, and it's very funny, and he obviously thought about it a lot.
By the way, I got the keys of your car, and I drove it into a big wall. If you don't like it, tough. I had my fun, and that's all that matters.
And Brandon, he'd come from kind of more old school, kind of, he'd been around a while, and his contemporary, he wasn't part of the kind of alternative comedy, whatever you want to call it. So it was probably an opportunity for him to reach a new audience as well.
Young people, and young up to 40s, would look at me, and they probably don't even know me as Brendan Grace, but they know me as Father Fintan Stack. I did a persona of a teacher I had in school and the character of Liberace, whom I had met 40 years earlier, at the beginning of my career.
Well, I didn't know it was based on Liberace, but now that you've said that, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. I just want to give you me rider.
Rider? What's a rider?
It's a list of things that I be wanting backstage.
Oh, right, yeah, like, Smarties with the brown ones taking out champagne in the jacuzzi, that kind of thing.
Well, I'm allergic to champagne. Just fill it up with Tipperary spring water.
We managed to get Brendan to work with us on Killing the Scully. We were absolutely delighted. I'll never forget when he was picked up today coming to set. Word kept filtering down through the walkie-talkies. Brendan Grace is on set, Brendan. And all the crew were just so excited. Everybody got to have an icon like him on set. It was amazing to see all the younger crew, and everybody was just like, he's here, he's in the dressing room. And it was that real excitement. I was like, lads, will you just calm down and leave him? He's working with us, leave him alone. And everybody was looking for autographs and in to meet him and get photographs with him. It was I was blown away because there was a lot of young filmmakers there and people like that there, and they were all just the same thing. It was just all huge fans of his.
Big
You always go, oh, he could have been a brilliant comic actor. Do you know what I mean? But that's like all of us, we could have, we would have, we should have, But he wasn't. He didn't get to do the big comedy acting thing at all, but he did it live on stage instead.
And Brendan was always able to nail the two of them. Comedy acting and standing up saying, I went down the road the other day, I was over home, and deliver that. 2 minutes later, come out as a little boy, bottler. The combination of all of those factors is what gives one longevity, because what's there to get tired of?
And we came out with the chapel, and I'll never forget it. It's something that still sticks out with me. There was 2 dogs outside the chapel. There was these 2 dogs, and they were very, very close. Well, they were quite attached, and I came out. And I was looking at the 2 dogs, and I said to me, Mammy, I said, what are them dogs doing? She said, well, I'll tell you. I said, do you see the dog in the front? I said, not well. I said, the other dog is pushing her to the hospital.
I love the man. You just meet somebody and his spirit, you carry that with you. And he was one of those guys. You know, there's a handful of them that I've met in my life, maybe. And he's one of them.
But if somebody came to me and said to me, how would you describe Brendan Grace? Star. He's just a star. He encompasses everything about being a star. Generous, funny, talented, and longevity. Well done, Brendan.
And I just hope he keeps going and going and going. Sure, he'd be going down in the grave like he'd be talking. He's still in the box going, yeah, did you hear the one about that?
I'm very content. It boils down to, you know, being content with what you've done. Because the biggest word in the English language is if. And, you know, if I had done this, if I had done that, if you were to live your life on that word, if, you know, you go mad. I've always said that if my aunt had balls, she would have been my uncle. That's a good way of putting it.
Is it?
I think it is.
Sounds weird. You're crazy.
I drove my tractor through your haggard last night. I threw me pitchfork at your dog to keep quiet. Now something's telling me that you're avoiding me. Come on now, girlie, you've got something I need. Well, I've got a brand new combine harvester and I'll give you the key. Come on now, let's live together in perfect harmony. I've got 20 acres and you've got 43. Well, I've got a brand new combine harvester and I'll give you the key. Will you come down off that cocker here and listen to me? I'll stick by you.